So welcome to this week's newsletter. Sorry there wasn't one last week, you might have noticed, and I don't think I did a video one the week before because we were away in France and it was just too difficult with the slow speed of the internet. I've been trying to get a better backdrop, as you can see. This is the view at the back of our garden. That's I don't think you can see the sea, but beyond those trees is the sea and beyond that is France. So right on the south coast. Lovely day today, but I couldn't find anywhere where I wasn't being blinded by the sun, so I've ended up with a strange backing for the video today, and I was going to do it on Periscope, but I've bottled it, so I might do that next week instead. So it all got a bit hectic at the end of our holiday, and I was finishing early in France and actually flying home to an event that was last weekend, so that's why I didn't do the newsletter in the end, because I just had too much going on. I was speaking 3 times over the weekend, and I intended sending a newsletter when I got back. I was going to send it on Tuesday and then thought that would be a bit too late, so I just left it, and here we are today. So we had 2 weeks on the Isle d'Oléron in France, near La Rochelle. We were away with my parents-in-law, brother-in-law and sister-in-law and their 3 boys. So little Dodsie had a lovely time, as she's really close to her 3 cousins. They're all older than her and really look after her, but she holds her own as well. She's not a pushover. There are a few funny things to report. My sister-in-law's a native French speaker and the boys are all bilingual. And the youngest came over to tell us that somebody in the chalet or tent near us had said very I can't even say the word, conspiratorially to him, "Did you know the people in the chalet next to you are English?" And so he just took the story to tell us about it, didn't actually say to them, I know them, because he considers himself to be English because they live in England. So he just sort of, obviously said probably like we, and off they went, so they were none the wiser that he actually knew us. I think the most entertaining part of the holiday was that little Dodsie packed herself 13 outfits for the holiday, having asked how long we were going for, and she labelled them all. So they all had labels 1 to 13. It didn't last very long in practice, but after maybe 3 days she stopped wearing them. But for the first few days we kept asking her which label she'd got on, because she left them on to begin with, so we had a good check to make sure she was wearing the right clothing for the right day. They all had sailing and windsurfing lessons. Simon and his brother sailed and windsurfed respectively. I didn't. Wetsuits and water are required, so even when it's hot I don't really want to do that. Having said that, I came home, as I said, a day early as I was speaking at the event that I mentioned in London, and I had to get a ferry from the island to La Rochelle before I could get on the plane to fly home, and the weather was atrocious. I think there were more people out the back of the boat being sick than there were actually in the boat, so I did feel a bit sorry for the people who have to work there. Oh, my cat's just jumping over the fence. Just put me off then. So, reader contributions and ideas. I love to get feedback and ideas from newsletter readers, and I had a few following my last newsletter that I want to share with you. You might remember that I talked about the story I'd heard about mindfulness at the checkout, about the guy who'd seen a lady hand a baby over to the checkout assistant and was getting all agitated because he was in a hurry, and the turns out that the lady was the child's mother and her husband had died in Afghanistan, all that sort of stuff, and he was sort of saying that he reminded himself he needed to stop and think about other people and not assume stories, sort of thing. So Alan said that he was reminded of that, or by that, and with the recommendation of Focus at Will, which is the tool that I recommended for playing music and noises in the background so that you can help to focus more. He went on a retreat with brahmakumaris.org.uk, and they suggested a process called traffic control, and every hour, on the hour for a few minutes, you stop what you're doing and relax and listen to music to centre yourself. And Alan says he's carried on doing that since he came back, and finds it really refreshing. Drew said that the checkout story reminded him of the book The Secret. And Chris sent in a tip that if you use Focus at Will, oops, my bit of paper's blowing away, in 2 separate browsers, maybe on Chrome and Firefox on your laptop, or you could have it on your laptop and on your phone at the same time, playing music in one and the background cafe noises in the other, which is under Creative Beta. It facilitates major productivity apparently, so I guess the other option is you could go to a coffee shop and then use headphones in one ear to listen to the music and just have the actual coffee shop sounds in the background. But anyway, I must give that a try, and thanks for contributing. Really good to have people sending information in, great to be able to share with you. Social media marketing made simple and in less time. So last week's blog took a bit of getting a bit of doing to get it onto the internet, as I was in France and the internet was really slow. My phone was really good while I was away. I use O2 and their deals are good, but it was still slow to upload things. So I went to the Todoist office nearly every day and used their internet as well. It was really slow, but at least it allowed me to download and upload documents and so on, although I think they sussed me in the end, because the last day I went I could log onto the internet on my phone but not on the laptop, so I think they'd actually blocked my IP, which I don't blame them for because I was using it quite a lot. But I managed to update the website via my WordPress app on my smartphone. I recommend the WordPress app if you've not used that, if you've got a WordPress site, and got that done and actually written and updated. And then I used Canva to design the imagery when I got back over the weekend in between crewing and speaking at the event, and uploaded it then. That's the Romney-Dym Church Railway, if you just heard that, which is at the bottom of the hill. It was a post that I wrote about 6 years ago, but it's now it's updated. It's really quite an interesting post about saving time and doing social media in sort of the least time that you can, but still being effective, which I thought you might find useful. So I've updated it, which obviously helped me because I didn't have to write it from scratch whilst I was on holiday. And so that's a good tip for your own blogging as well. If you've got limited time, perhaps look at an old post and update it and republish it. So you can see that on the website, powertolivemore.com. That's the blog that went up last week rather than this week. So, social media mastery made simple. As I said, I was speaking at an event last weekend. I did a couple of sessions showing people how to use an ebook marketing system published or created by Tom Hua. And I also had a session then talking about social media, and they've asked me to run a webinar on that later this week as well. So whilst I was away, sorry, the cat's distracting me. Whilst I was away, I got a lot clearer on who the market is for Power to Live More, and realised that it really is about entrepreneurs and small business owners who work from home. And on that basis, I've decided to do a bit more about social media under the topic of productivity, because obviously in lots of cases it will be relevant to people who work from home and run their own businesses. So I will be doing a bit more about social media. So it struck me that you might be interested in the webinar. So let me know if you are, joe@joedodds.com or joe@powertolivemore.com, and I will think about perhaps running one in a couple of weeks just for people on this list. So that would be good if you could let me know if you're interested. What value can we add that no one else can? So I was listening to the new Rainmaker with Brian Clark podcast this week, and he was talking with a guy called Robert Rose of the Content Marketing Institute, and they were talking about how important relationships and experiences are nowadays in product marketing for large brands as well as for SMEs and individual businesses. It's something I've always talked about in relation to social media, about developing relationships, focusing on that and not so much about that whole sort of anonymous marketing. I don't really talk about that. For me, it's very much about using social media to build relationships, demonstrate integrity and credibility and all that sort of stuff. So I like listening to the podcast because they were talking about the sort of things that I'm interested in, and talking about how, to put personality into your business. And as you probably know, I do put personality into my business, or my personality into my business. They suggested that for differentiation, we ask ourselves questions like, what value can we add to the consumer that no one else can? So when you think about competition, people delivering similar products, actually it's the way that you deliver it that will differentiate you from somebody else. And they quoted a lady called Sally Hogshead saying, different is better than better, which I liked as a concept. And they also recommended a book called Different by Young Me Moon. So I've added that to my reading list because it looks really good, really helpful. And Robert shared a case study, which I thought was worth sharing with you, about a small financial services organisation, a bit like Goldman Sachs, but they've only got about 8 employees, so very small. And they asked themselves the question about how they could offer value to their customers. And they decided that their why was not about creating better investors, so not helping their customers to become better investors, but to help their customers to become better people. And so they started offering a book club to their customers, and after a while they started holding events where they invited artists and poets and entertainers to come and perform, for their customers. To provide education around areas other than investment, obviously, and finance. And in the end, the survey that they use to ask their customers why they stay with them, the customers list the book club as the first reason why they stay, and the arts event as the number 2 reason why they stay. Clearly they also offer great investment advice, and that's the thing that they talk about as being the third reason that they stay. But what's actually keeping them with that particular organisation is the added value that they're getting from the book club and the arts event. And I thought that was really interesting, because they're offering something that's nothing to do with what they're actually selling, but they're building that value, and I guess they're building community around their business, which is really helping them. So I thought that was useful to share with you. Using Todoist, I keep waxing lyrical about Todoist, and I just wanted to sort of throw something in about that as a result of the holiday. I really like the labels and the filter functionality that you get with Todoist, and whilst I was away, as I said, I had to go to the Tourist office to do particular tasks, and I like to have tasks all neat, and I like to tick things off, and I don't like to have things sort of hanging around, especially if I can't do them yet. So I created a label called Tourist Office, and I labelled anything that I could only do at the Tourist office with that. And then I changed all the filters so that on my today's urgent and important and today's routine tasks, I took out anything that had Tourist Office as a label, which meant then that I could tick all my tasks off, get to an empty to-do list once I'd done everything I needed to do back at the chalet, and then I just had a list under my labels for the Tourist Office that I could just do, click on and work on when I got to the Tourist office. Obviously I've taken that off now, but it's something that I will use again for other scenarios to sort of manipulate, if you like, the tasks so that they, help to motivate me to get the stuff done. I thought it might be useful for you. You might find a way to do that to help you with your own task list as well. And just to add, the Tourist office was 20 minutes from the chalet, so I was able to tick off my daily walk on my task list every day as well. I am that sad. I do put a daily walk on my to-do list every day. And finally, balsamic tomato chicken with basil. I've got a recipe for you this week. I hadn't cooked it for a while, but I cooked it when we were in France because I was cooking for 10, and it's quite quick and easy to do, and it tastes really lush. I found it in a magazine ages ago, and I've tracked down the book that it was taken from. And I've had a look since I got back and found out that actually individual recipes aren't, I don't know what that banging is now, that recipes aren't subject to copyright. They are if they're sort of in books or they're sort of gathered together in a number of them together, but just one on its own is a method, and you can't copyright methods. So I've put it on my website, and you can see it now and give it a go. It's really nice, as I say, really quick and easy with very few ingredients, so give it a try and let me know what you think. So it's a bit quiet in the house this week. Dodsey and little Dodsey have just gone off to a sailing event this morning, so it's going to be a bit quiet. Missing them already, but I am quite enjoying the peace and quiet. So I'll catch you next week.